Alright, explorers, today we are investigating the giant skeletons that were found in the Lovelock Caves. I am here at the Nevada History Museum, and we're going to look at the placard and get a little more information about these caves.
You can ride the elevator back up or come back up the stairs.
Alright guys, so here it is. The Saidaka and the Lovelock culture. It says, red-headed giant cannibals preying upon hapless northern Paiutes from the basis of traditional stories told from west central Nevada to south central Oregon. Saidaka, under tools, were marsh inhabitants that kidnapped, killed, and sometimes ate the Paiutes. Attempts to live in harmony with such neighbors were difficult under the best of circumstances, and the Paiutes ultimately drove them from the region or exterminated them. Some anthropologists believe that these stories chronicle the arrival of the northern Paiutes into the region and their replacing existing Saidaka populations between 2,000 and 1,000 years ago. Distinctive duck decoys, basketry, carved effigies, and other tools recovered from the Lovelock Cave above the Humboldt Marsh form the basis for the Lovelock archaeological culture. Many anthropologists and some Paiutes distinguish these Lovelock artifacts from Paiute artifacts and associate them with the Saidaka. Other northern Paiutes dismiss the interpretation and view the story as the same light as the European fairy tales. Saidaka stories were merely meant to keep the children out of marshes, or as the boogeyman stories scare children into behaving. The Washoe also have stories about giants formerly living within the territory. Alright, so what's up guys? We are here at the Lovelock Caves. This is where supposedly they found the giant skeletons, but for sure we know they found over 10,000 Native American artifacts, including duck decoys, arrowheads, and then also some bones as well. So we're going to go up there now and take a look inside.
Whoop whoop! Let's go! Holla!
Alright, so this is everything that I could research last night, because I first learned about these caves about 6 years ago, and I did some research on them, and the initial story that I read online, and granted this is from one source and before I really knew how to fact check and all that stuff, but the original story that I was told was that, and this, at least this first part is true, that Sarah Winnemucca was the daughter of Chief Winnemucca, and she wrote a story about red-haired giants that the Paiutes used to go to war with. So, and this is in 1880. So she writes this book. An archaeologist is curious about this and comes down here, asks about it, and she's like, yeah, the story's true. They're right up here in these caves. So he comes in and checks out these caves, and when he checks it out, the floor is covered with layers and layers of bat guano. So a company sends some miners out here to mine out all this bat guano to use for fertilizer.
Okay.
Once that's done, while they're doing this, and granted, these miners and this guy are they're not related. So they're doing this digging in here to get all this guano out.
Yeah.
And while they're doing this, they're finding artifacts. They're digging out bones and skeletons, and they're just like throwing them in a pile. They gave some of the bones away.
Like they didn't know, or they knew?
I just think it was the early 1900s, and like archaeology was not that popular, you know.
Yeah.
So, oh here, there's a sign up here. Let's go there, and then we'll go to the cave.
Is there a sign?
So they're finding all these bones. This is in 1911. So 1912, this guy gets his permit to come do his dig out here.
Okay.
And when they're out here, they find a bunch of artifacts and all that. They find some skeletons of red-haired people. So there was other excavations in the 20s and 30s that supposedly turned up these giants. There's a sign about the wildlife here.
Mm-hmm. Desert hare, pine nuts.
But anyway, so to conclude the story,
Okay.
the skeletons were found in here, many skeletons, red hair. But as far as what I could find on the 8.5 foot and the 10-foot skeletons that were supposedly found out here, it doesn't necessarily say it was this cave or they were actually in the cave. Some of them actually say that possibly they were somewhere in the Lahontan lake bed out there, where Lahontan used to cover basically like a third of Nevada.
Right, okay. Which is insane because it's like nothing.
Yeah. All right, we are at the mouth of the cave now. Okay, so we're here at the mouth of the cave. So to continue the story about what I say her name was, Mary Winnemucca? Mm-hmm. Mary Winnemucca.
I think.
The tale that she said is that these giants were cannibals, and that her people would go to war with them. And finally all the tribes of the area got together and they started capturing them and killing them. And at the last stand was at this cave, to where they stuffed the entrance of this full of sagebrush and they lit it on fire. And you could see from this black soot that this is the evidence of this story being true. And they asked the giants to surrender, which they didn't, and they were killed here basically. And after this, they were never seen again. You can smell the guano in here. I guess like part of this caved in at some point. So I don't know if this at once went deeper and if all this debris was out of the way and the cave went in further. I assumed it did, because I mean back there you can definitely see some cracks. And then it goes deeper down over here too. So all this ceiling is black. Looks like that may have at one point went to something. But yeah, so over 10,000 artifacts were found here. They found caches of duck decoys. Some of the pictures that I found were, they found spear arrowheads that had been burned. That was kind of interesting. They think that that may have been from the fire. Yeah, I just wonder if it's been caved in more since then, you know, or if they caved it in because they didn't want people going in there. Because this is just, I'm standing on a huge mound of dirt here. The geology is really cool. I love that kind of swirl look in the rocks. Yeah, but that doesn't look like it goes anywhere. That may have at one point, but I feel like if anything, it would have been cracks that went down into there.
Over there, literally, I feel like I could fit through it, but I'd get that.
Really?
Yes. Whoa. Yeah. Probably right there.
So they said, one thing I read is how this cave was formed was even longer, you know, longer period of time ago when the water levels were really high here. This was water created this cave basically. Looks like an animal's nest up there. Oh, people putting their trash here. It's so bad. If you ever go to a place, take your trash with you, please. Well,
Let me out of there.
that's it for that cave.
There's like one over there. I really want to go see.
Alright, so guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. When I try to do the research on this, like I was saying before, it was really shoddy. A lot of articles seem to have conflicting information. I couldn't get the exact details. I mean, one place would say the Spirit Cave is where the giant skeletons were found. The other ones would say this one. Other ones said it was the Lahontan Lake bed. So it's kind of sad that that this information is being lost. I mean, it's possible that this is all a hoax. Some people claim that there were never any giant skeletons found, and that, you know, maybe the biggest ones that were found were like 7 feet, and maybe that's what they were talking about of being giant, because the average height of humans was only about 5'5" back then, so a 7-foot tall person would definitely be a giant to them. They also mentioned that the skulls that they did found weren't necessarily giant, but they were just very robust. They just had maybe larger chins, larger cheekbones and stuff like that, maybe larger back of the skulls, and that those could be misconstrued as giants. So the information is starting to get a little more convoluted, and I don't know, I find that kind of sad, but it is what it is, and we came out here today to at least get a look at it and at least document what is known so far about it today, and hopefully there'll be more truths uncovered in the future. So, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more exploring videos, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you out there.
Comment below, bitches.
Yeah. And if you have any good information about giants or anything like that, please leave it in the comments below, and so we can talk about it.